Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Awards Watch Emmy podcast. This is Emmy podcast number 22, and I am your host, Eric Anderson of Awards Watch. And I have a very special guest with me today to talk about the Emmy submission ballots that were just released yesterday. I have with me contributing editor at GoldDerby, Riley Chow. Hello, Riley.
Hi there.
I am very excited to have you on here. I am a big fan. And let's get right to it. So one of the most fun things about Emmy predictions is when those ballots get released. And these are the submissions that come through for all categories: programs, acting, makeup, costumes, anything that you can get an Emmy nomination for, and you need to be submitted by your show or your agent or yourself if nobody does it for you. And so we have a few things to talk about. First off, I want to jump right into some guest acting categories and sort of talk a little bit about the new-ish 50% rule that has kind of changed the geography of that category quite a bit. And the one I want to point out the most, I think, is Zahn McClarnon's from Westworld. And he was just highlighted in a spectacular pocket episode this last Sunday. And it's normally would be like the perfect like guest nomination, but he's in 5 of the 10 eligible episodes of this season. And part of that is this brief like couple of second glimpse that he's given in one episode that just kind of disqualifies him there. So instead, he will be competing in supporting up against like 6-7 other people. It's kind of crazy. Riley, what are your thoughts on that rule change and how it has affected contenders negatively or positively?
Well, it's funny, for Zahn McClarnon, like that's the first thing that I was looking for when the ballots came out, because I talked to HBO previously and they had, put out their FYC DVD that said that he was in guest, so I was ready to get him disqualified, as I do. But yeah, he wasn't supporting, and he might even be in the finale now that they've added him to the main credits, so maybe he won't even be close to being eligible. But yeah, I really like the rule. I mean, there were very good reasons to make that rule when, Uzo Aduba or Joe Morton would be winning an Emmy for a guest appearance that was actually, all season long for every single episode. I think that they went a little too far the other way where just if they had made it so that anybody who had appeared in 50% was still a guest instead of under 50%, then I feel like that would have changed a lot. Because we do seem to get a fair number of people who are in like just one too many episodes.
Yeah.
And they get disqualified.
Yeah, I agree. I almost wish it was either a 2-part rule, or hit the 50% in that other direction. I think it would be a little bit more fair. Sort of similar to McClarnon. At least he is put in the proper category and is not in danger of a disqualification. What happened with Peter MacNicol in Veep, which for anybody that's listening and anybody that follows the Emmy Awards, Peter MacNicol got an Emmy nomination in guest, but was disqualified because he had a couple of seconds where he was in one episode, in a video inside an episode. And it was Riley right here that was the sleuth that found this and brought it to the attention of the Academy. And then the rest is history.
Yeah, I'm very proud of that. Since then, I've been trying to just get nominations rescinded all over the place. I also got rid of a Critics' Choice nomination for Mandy Patinkin,
Yep.
got some satellite nominations for Laurie Metcalf and Master of None rescinded, and I even went so far as to get a nomination for a random Lifetime movie that hadn't come out nominated or rescinded at the Makeup Guild.
There you go.
Yeah.
Watch out, people. Riley knows his business. The Peter McNichol thing was kind of incredible in the sense that the person that replaced him ended up winning.
Yeah.
That was really really wild. I thought that was pretty fun. Um,
It was
are
weird that they didn't invite him back the next year. Either of them, actually. I thought that the sympathy would have extended so far that they would have nominated one or both of those Peters the next year.
the Television Academy is really strange. They don't have a lot of that. They don't have a lot of sympathy. They don't have a lot of like career wins and stuff like that. It's really strange. But at the same, and then on the other end, especially like in the 80s and 90s, they were, just more than happy to keep giving the same person wins year after year after year. That was kind of like their big thing. But rules have changed and voting has changed, and there's was blue ribbon panels, and it changes every single year. So I mean, anytime there's like changes in the Oscar rules and voting too, it's impossible to really make any type of apples to apples comparisons because the rules that exist today didn't exist before. So it's not really quite the same. Do we have any other guest versus supporting questions? I'm not sure. We have some movement, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure there are too many people who were disqualified this year from that 50% rule. I think the only one I can think of is Henry Winkler, who I think they just didn't bother submitting at all for Arrested Development. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure about that Arrested Development in general. And like, I got a list, Gold Derby got a list the other day of like 10 programs that Netflix is pushing for nominations the
Hmm.
most, and like Arrested Development wasn't on it. On their FYC DVD, they didn't even campaign for writing and directing.
Yeah, I think they have like one episode each in each of those. I'm not really looking to that show being able to do too much. They did decide to submit Jeffrey Tambor, whereas Transparent did not. I think maybe Jessica Walter has the closest outside shot, unless Tony Hale gets in because Veep is not eligible this year.
Yeah, and the last time that he was eligible for Arrested Development, he actually didn't submit for Arrested Development. He just wanted to focus on Veep.
Yeah. So I think those are the outside possibilities, but I'm not really looking too high on that.
Yeah,
Um,
I think Jessica Walter was just so far off the radar to begin with. Like,
yeah.
the internet loves her. I mean, like over at Gold Derby, we've nominated her 4 times and awarded her twice.
Hmm.
But the Emmys have nominated her once in 4 seasons.
Exactly. And Awards Watch is the same, and you can find that probably at quite a few different, television and film forums where fan votes and fan perception is very different than the actual academy itself. So, um, we have a few shows that have an insane amount of acting submissions. Westworld, which we were just talking about, has 21 different entries for acting. And although they did extremely well last year, I think they are, because they had a lot of category switching. Jeffrey Wright and Ed Harris were supporting last year, their lead this year. Anthony Hopkins was lead last year and got in. He's submitted in supporting this year. And like I mentioned before, that's going to put him with Clifton Collins, Luke Hemsworth, Lewis Hertham, James Marsden, Son McClernand, and Simon Quarterman. That's a lot. it's crazy. It's diluting the ability for many to get in.
Yeah,
And go ahead.
it's funny on their FYC DVD. It says supporting actor for your consideration, James Marsden, and then for a while it seemed like he would be the only supporting actor submitted, but they were hiding the fact that Anthony Hopkins was in the season, and they had initially kind of misplaced Zahn McClarnon, and then a bunch of other people just submitted themselves. So not even close.
Yeah, it's kind of really going to be up in the air for them, and I think I'm really anxious to see what the split is between Westworld and Game of Thrones, because this will be the first time they've had to compete in the same year. Westworld got 21 nominations last year, and they were really picking up the slack of HBO not having Game of Thrones. I think going up against each other is going to create, I don't know, I don't think it's going to be like 50-50. I think that Game of Thrones is going to end up with the lion's share, and Westworld's numbers will drop quite a bit. What are your thoughts on those two?
Yeah, initially I was thinking that there'd be space for both of them, and it would be kind of the random nomination for, Masters of Sex or The Man in the High Castle that would fall out of other categories. But yeah, but then Westworld is also not eligible in some categories that it was last year, like main title, theme music. Although they are pretty thirsty by submitting for main title design again.
I know. It was pretty funny, and I was in a Twitter conversation about that. I'm like, yeah, it is different, but it's a lateral move.
Something that's strange that Westworld didn't submit for is Celia Ward in the next episode, which kind of spoilery, but she is, depressed, suicidal. She's crying. She's, yelling. She checks off a lot of boxes in like the Emmy bait checklist, and she's, a two-time lead winner for multiple shows.
Yeah.
So
that is weird. Well, I mean, it's a show too that is extremely male heavy. So I don't know. Maybe they just don't really care. Let's see. Handmaid's Tale has a ton. It has 12 contenders, 3 in supporting actor, 4 in supporting actress, 4 in guest actress, including Samira Wiley, who's going down from supporting to guest after her nomination last year. I'm really curious to see also, just like with Westworld, now that Game of Thrones is back, what will happen with Handmaid's Tale, who is last year's huge winner. I think they're going to do as well, if not possibly better, nomination-wise. I think they can.
Yeah, I have them expanding to 18 nominations. I'll just go through them. They submitted an additional production design submission this time, and also production design has been reshuffled, so now they're off in their like entirely own contemporary category.
Yes.
With pretty much nothing else. I think they'll get into editing this year, and yeah, just they have so many more guest actresses. One who's kind of weird for me is Joseph Fiennes, because I can't imagine kind of anybody watching The Handmaid's Tale and thinking like, oh wow, like he's great. But at the same time, nobody was predicting him last year, but nobody was predicting, Samira Wiley or Ann Dowd or for the show to win 3 acting Emmys. So in hindsight, it's kind of strange that he didn't get in.
It is a little bit, and it's a kind of fascinating flip side to something like Westworld that is so male dominated, where all the women got in for this and none of the men did. But I think part of that is because the men's performances in it are generally pretty low key, and they don't drive the action. I mean, they are good supporting players, but they don't push the narratives along the way that the women do, and appropriately so. I'm certainly hoping that Yvonne Strahovski can get in this year.
Yeah, the recent episodes have been really heavy for her character, but yeah, I'm a little worried that she only had one scene in the first three, and you never know like how many episodes the Emmy voters are going to get to before they have to vote, especially with this coming out, so close to the end of eligibility, or even past it. And then
Yes.
another thing with The Handmaid's Tale is like it got so many acting and directing nominations last year, but normally we see shows like this, like that win in their first year or like are strong in their first year, like Mad Men, Homeland, Veep, Modern Family, whatever. They always grow in their second year.
Hmm.
So like, will we just see like four supporting actresses or two supporting actors or who knows?
I mean, I think obviously Elizabeth Moss will get in, and Dowd I think will still get in, although she's had such less to do. But she could also quite easily be somebody that is like one and done. I do think Stropski has a very good chance. I think guest actress is gonna really blow up. I think they'll get three.
Yeah.
I think,
Unfortunately.
yeah. I am gonna not predict any of the men getting in. I don't know. I'm not quite there.
Yeah, here's the thing. I don't know why we have 24 slots for guest performances. Just
So, do you think there should be just a less? Explain.
yeah, like absolutely. I mean, we always want to think of television as being, surpassing film or as prestigious, but then, or film they have, 20 slots at the Oscars for
Yeah.
acting, and the Emmys have like 120.
Hmm.
And you have people like, Cherry Jones who will get in for this, 4-minute performance.
Well, it's better than a 15-second one like Ellen Burstyn, but yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I get your point. But that's I think the kind of thing that happens with a show like this that's already popular, and it will just kind of get name checked across the ballot. And that's how its chances of increasing nominations will happen this year as well, because you're going to be like, of course I'm going to put Marissa Tomei in and Cherry Jones, and we nominated Samira Wiley last year, so she's going in again. It's very possible.
Yeah, we've really seen in the guest categories in recent years, like once they allowed series regulars who were in less than 50% of the episodes to come in, then just, House of Cards and This Is Us just get like way more nominations than anybody was expecting, just because voters actually watch those shows, so they, are going to check them off over something that they haven't seen.
Speaking of This Is Us, that's a good jump over to have, because like you said, they got 7 acting nominations last year of their like 10. It was
Yep.
crazy. So do you think that is a show that is going to increase, stay, or drop from last year? Because it was quite a breakthrough for network television. And I do think that they have the potential for more. And they were also really, really smart this year. And I think learned from last year by only submitting 2 episodes in writing and 2 episodes in directing instead of like 5 or 6 or whatever.
Yeah, I will say about that I think that even if they had only submitted one last year, they still wouldn't have gotten in. I mean, like Better Call Saul, they submitted, also an absurd amount, and they got nominated. And then all these other shows that were nominated for writing, like The Crown, Westworld, Stranger Things, I thought they were further ahead in the race anyway. And we also have that new system that started last year where the Emmy voters, they can now check off as many contenders in any category that they like.
Yeah.
So, if somebody really liked This Is Us, they could have voted for all the episodes. Plus, I thought Memphis was kind of clearly their push last year anyway.
Yeah. And this year, they have just the same 2 in both Super Bowl Sunday and The Car. which I think are definitely their strongest episodes. And I think they have a good shot. I definitely want to talk about writing and directing categories because I think they're just going to be a bloodbath this year.
Yes.
And yeah, I think we should just jump right to that because I've been tinkering and redoing my prediction list before I publish it this week, and I'm pulling the rest of my hair out. It's so maddening.
Wow.
Well, I mean, in directing, you've got 2 episodes of Game of Thrones, both really strong, very directory. This Is Us, if they can pull off their Jack Dice in the Fire. Stranger Things, is that even going to be like it was the first season? I think of any show, I think that show has the potential to just drop in terms of nomination totals, even though I know obviously Netflix is pushing the crap out of it. Handmaid's Tale is here. The series finale of The Americans, I think, could. And then Killing Eve, if it is anything outside of Sandra Oh.
Yeah, we're still on directing right now, right?
Yes.
Yes. See, I would say that Game of Thrones has 3 contenders. Well, 4 actually is what they've submitted, but I'm predicting 3 of them because the Directors Guild, has never nominated multiple Game of Thrones episodes before.
Yeah.
And this year they nominated 3, and they only have 5 slots. The Emmys have 6 slots, and like these episodes all kind of stand out on their own. There's The Spoils of War, which is kind of the big one. And then there's Beyond the Wall, which was supposed to be the big one.
Yeah.
And then, from a more recognizable name, Alan Taylor. And then Jeremy Podeswa has been nominated for the show before he did the finale. So I think each of those has a very strong chance of nomination. And then the other ones I'm looking at are The Handmaid's Tale, because they got 2 out of 3 nominated last year.
Yes.
They only have 2 directors who are on the ballot this year. Their third director, who's eligible, is actually that same Jeremy Podeswa from Game of Thrones. So he opted to submit for that because in directing you can only submit for 1 show per category.
That's kind of lame.
Yeah. So I've got those taking up 5 slots, and then for my last slot, I'm going with David Fincher, which means that I don't have Stranger Things, I don't have The Crown, I don't have Westworld, I don't have Leslie Lincoln Glatter for Homeland.
I know, those are all in my my other contenders list is longer than my actual nominees, because I'm looking at other Americans. I'm looking at maybe Counterpart, if that is something that happens, or The Deuce. Homeland, definitely, because Leslie Lincoln Glatter has gotten in when the show hasn't. She was just in last year.
Exactly.
And Westworld is a maybe, and definitely the David Fincher Mindhunter, and that's why I'm going so crazy with this. I can't lock it down. I can't really decide.
Yeah, I would love to consider The Americans finale, but no, it's just not in the race. And I don't think This Is Us is a factor at all here.
I think that's fair. I can't argue it, which is why I'm so glad that we're doing this before I publish anything, because, oh my God, otherwise I'd just end up looking like a dummy. But
what about how Ray Donovan randomly got in a couple of years ago, and they've got pretty strong episode this year in the middle that that show just keeps popping up for some reason.
That was like the Dexter. I mean, Ray Donovan is basically their new Dexter.
Yeah.
Even winning guest actors prizes. Yeah. Oh God, do I have to put that in here now too? Jesus. Thanks,
Riley.
I
started the season with Susan Sarandon in my predictions for Ray Donovan.
Yeah,
but,
me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Not now.
No.
I think she's in my other contenders, but yeah, not so much. Well, what about for writing for a drama series? Because it's a lot of the same episodes. and you have something like The Crown that only submitted one, and they're doing the Downton Abbey thing. We're trying to get all of the votes concentrated on a single episode.
Well, The Crown only has the one writer, but in directing, they absolutely did that strategy.
Yes. Because I have almost the same list.
Okay.
I've got Handmaid's Tale, June, and Game of Thrones, Dragon and the Wolf, Americans, because they are better at getting writing nominations than directing.
Yeah.
And I'm still kind of on the Killing Eve train of being able to be a breakthrough here.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like, she wasn't nominated for Fleabag, and like the show, I don't know. I mean, I understand that the internet likes it, but the internet also really liked Orphan Black, which had, similar ratings, and I don't know. Like, the show has been growing in the ratings every week, but it also started, so tiny.
Yeah, I think it ended up at like 700,000, which is pretty good for BBC America. And that's my train of thought. That was where I was going to. It was like, well, it took 2 years for Maslany to get in, even though the internet loved her, and
3 even, actually.
Was it 3? Oh
yeah.
My god! So I think there's a potential for that, but it also feels like the type of attention that the show, and especially Sandra Oh, has gotten is a little bit different.
Yeah,
and she's a previous nominee. It's a huge
Writers Branch
comeback for her.
Yeah, sorry. The Writers Branch, they do love their Brits as well.
Yeah, and something like Fleabag was definitely something popular among TV fans, but I didn't ever really think it was going to be very much outside of that. So I'm sometimes I straddle the line of predicting and hope-dicting a little bit. So there's part of that. I don't know. What is today? Today is June 12th, which is exactly a month before the Emmy nominations come out.
Ooh.
So there's plenty of time to move things around and change one's mind. How much do you let something like Netflix's FYC campaign, which is pretty big, how much do you invest in that in how you predict? Do you feel like that is something that has a real impact on voters, just the visibility of it, or just something that is very, I don't know, showy?
Well, I think that it's hard to say that like any one like FYC event or anything like that has too much of an effect. I went to a bunch last week when I was in Los Angeles, and then like each of their FYC events could seat 400 people, and everybody gets a +1, so that's like 200 Emmy voters out of 23,000.
Yeah.
So like if you can't find 200 fans of your show among the Emmy voters out of 23,000, then like, but I do find it indicative of where how many billboards or ads online or FYC events they have is kind of indicative of how much they're spending on the campaign overall.
Yes.
So then you can kind of look at it that way. I thought there was a very clear correlation last year with Netflix, where Netflix, what they do for sending out DVDs, sometimes they send out DVDs that are individually sealed that have the complete season. Sometimes they put them into a big box with a whole bunch of other DVDs, and they might just include like 1 or 2 episodes. And the shows that they kind of gave that treatment to last year, I thought consistently underperformed in nominations, be it in like Bloodline or Black Mirror or A Series of Unfortunate Events or Santa Clarita Diet or whatever. It seemed like all these shows that kind of had potential, but I guess Netflix didn't give them enough of a push.
Okay, that makes sense, because it seems like the FYC events are much more press oriented, so that they get the attention out there. So Yeah,
Yeah.
I see your point. Yeah, 200, 200 Emmy voters in from a group of 23,000 is quite a small drop.
Yeah, I love the DVDs because they actually do go out to all the voters. Although at this point, there's so many DVDs that, they get every year and they just end in huge piles. And like, I don't know how they kind of decide which one they're actually going to watch if they still have a DVD player.
Mm-hmm.
But there is one FYC DVD package that I'm really excited about this year, which is Mindhunter. Have you seen that one?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, where like it shouldn't be that hard, but every other DVD that went out this year either came in, a square box or a rectangular box. Whereas Mindhunter, it came in, an FBI style case file envelope. And then all the discs they all look like old, reels. And
Wow.
it just seems like they actually tried with the design on that one, and we have seen that make a difference. What about, did you see the screener package that SAG voters got for Beast of No Nation?
I knew that's the one you were going to bring up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because there's no other explanation like why that would get nominated for ensemble, but they had, technology from the future where
Hmm.
it was like a card, but somehow it had a video in it. I still don't understand it, but the Mindhunter one is really eye-catching, and yeah, I'm predicting that show for a lot, even though it's kind of consistently disappointed across the awards season or year.
Well, I mean, Netflix sits outside the general networks, by having billions and billions of dollars
Yes.
to spend. They can absolutely do that, and it's fantastic. Okay.
For writing, I'll just say that I have The Handmaid's Tale, Game of Thrones, Americans, Stranger Things, and The Crown. Those are my first five.
Okay, yeah, me too.
It's interesting how, especially the writers, like they've really learned in the last couple of years that with like the new plurality voting, you really need to submit one if you want to have a chance to win. And then, and then I've got the Super Bowl episode of This Is Us.
There you go. Yeah, that makes sense.
I like how the Super Bowl episode is like a very clear first choice for anybody who likes This Is Us. So like it's not going to take away any votes from the other one. But if they really like This Is Us, then they have another option as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you are a person that watches the show in a weird, morbid curiosity type of way, this is the episode that you've been kind of waiting for since the beginning.
Yeah.
and what you kind of thought you were going to get in the first season, and then they kind of dragged it out and teased, and then decided that their most successful show also needed to piggyback on the Super Bowl. That was ridiculous, but it's going to get them what they want, so who's to argue that?
Yeah, like over in comedy writing, Atlanta, they've submitted 3 episodes, and there are no names on the ballot, so you don't know which one Donald Glover wrote, which one Stephen Glover wrote, or whatever. So they have Alligator Man, FUBU, and Barbershop.
Yeah.
And like I think if you're a fan on the show, you might have like a different opinion of which one was the best, and they might split some votes that way.
Yeah, it's always kind of strange that they don't list the writers, but they do list directors.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times there is favorites that get in over others. I mean, you can have a show like Better Call Saul submit 8 episodes and still get in, where other shows would never be able to do that. And that's just relationships and voting for what you know.
But yeah, I love it because the writers branch, like when they nominate Better Call Saul, it's always for kind of the standout episode. And then when the directors branch nominates Better Call Saul, it's for Vince Gilligan because that's the name that they know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I mean, at least as a viewer and as a person that does this, it's pretty transparent how that works out. But then at the same time, it means too that if you're gonna submit 8 episodes, but the one that you get in is really your main. It means people are watching the show. So
Yeah.
it's good in that way. You brought into the conversation comedy writing, so let's keep going there. So obviously the big news with this is that there is no Veep to swallow like 3 nominations here.
Yeah.
And what we do have is last year's winner with Atlanta.
Well, Master of None, yeah.
No, Master of None is also gone. But we have 3, I think, 3 pilots, 3 new shows that are going to be able to take nominations out of this. I think so. I think Barry, Glow, and Marvelous Mrs. Maisel should be able to get in here.
Okay. So do you have Silicon Valley falling out?
So right now, because we're in writing, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 nominees or 5?
Yeah, 6.
Oh, see, okay. Then I have 2 Atlanta, 1 1 Barry, Glow, Maisel, and Silicon Valley, 51%.
Okay. I think it'll be too easy for them with the new like unlimited voting just to check off all the Atlantas.
Yeah. So do you think 3 would get in?
Yeah, absolutely. Just like I thought there was a very clear hierarchy last year actually with the writing and directing and editing categories where they vote for their Veeps, they vote for their Silicon Valley, and then like they voted for Atlanta in writing, and then since they had 1 slot left over, then they threw it to Master of None, and then in directing, they voted for their Veep, their Atlanta, and their Silicon Valley, and they had no spots left over, so they, Master of None didn't get anything, and then Atlanta only got 1 out of the 2.
Yeah. That's yeah. I think there's the potential for that, and with Veep gone, that could mean that Silicon Valley just blows up in writing and directing, and I don't know. They do really like pilots, but maybe more in directing.
Yeah. I've been waiting for Silicon Valley to kind of blow up for years, and it's been simmering the whole time, and it keeps getting these random nominations in the new categories that they keep coming up with, like cinematography or production design, and I think it'll probably get into the new comedy sound editing this year. But I could see this also being the year where it just goes the other way, and kind of starts falling out of these categories where it's been just checked off for so long, because the show, the ratings aren't what it used to be. The enthusiasm certainly isn't what it used to be from critics. I mean, even people that really like the show, like let's say, the Critics' Choice Awards or the Satellite Awards that awarded it consecutively, didn't even nominate it for the last season.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. What about? Let's jump up into directing. Obviously, with directing, we are looking at the very new rule about including the multicams. Oh my God, which just is nothing really but secures Will and Grace a nomination here.
Yeah, there's a bit of a chance that it could go to Mark Centrowski for The Big Bang Theory, just because he's been nominated twice by the DGA, so it's very irregular that he hasn't gotten in anyway. And also, I presume that he's the one that pushed it through, since he's the one on the Board of Governors.
He is,
the
yes.
Directing branch representative. Maybe it was Gail Mancuso, because she was right before him.
No, it was
him.
It was him. That is true. That is a really good point. I handed it over to Will and Grace because James Burrows was nominated every single year, I think, except for the first, and I just was like, I don't see a scenario in which he doesn't make it. It would be really strange. But yes, the Big Bang Theory one does make sense, but God, that would be so awful.
That'd be funny.
It would be like that original song nomination for Alone Yet Not Alone.
Are you talking about the song titled "Alone Yet Not Alone"?
Yes.
Yes.
Because that was, I mean, through other disqualification, that was also, you know, a person that was like in charge of the music branch, and it's like, come on. I don't know. There's a little bit of putting your thumb on the scale there.
Yeah. We do see this proportional nominating in a bunch of below the line categories, and it's been creeping in more and more every single year. But this is, you know, the highest profile category that it's ever gotten into.
Yeah. Okay. I just spaced out here for a second. Sorry. There we go. Now I'm back to my my directing for a comedy series. Okay, so what are your predictions? What do you think is getting in, especially for the freshman shows? I'm really curious.
Yeah, so I've got the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel pilot. Something that we see in the directing category more than the writing category is kind of the guest directors going rogue and submitting themselves, which is, I think, exactly what happened with the additional Marvelous Mrs. Maisel director that submitted. Because I think if they were going to submit a second one, they would have gone with her husband.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, this guy wasn't on, you know, any of their FYC stuff. I do just have the pilot getting in because I think that they'll be able to differentiate them enough. Then I've got both Atlanta's and both Silicon Valley. So actually, yeah, really boring.
Yeah.
I would watch out for Robert B. Weed for Curb Your Enthusiasm, because even though they submitted like all 6 directors, he has consistently been the one who the director's branch has latched onto for whatever reason.
Which episode was his?
His is Never Wait for Seconds, the one where with all the cameos and controlling the buffet line.
I think I have Thank You for Your Service in my other contender list.
Yeah, I really like Larry Charles and the work he's done, but they've just always gone with Robert B. Weed when the choice. So I don't have Glow in writing or directing, and I've got Barry missing directing but getting writing.
Yeah, I don't. I have Barry in both. I have Glow in both. I have Mrs. Maisel in both. And I mean, really, that was just, you know, one of the great things about the ballots is with, you know, the acting and series stuff, you can work on your predictions, you know, all season long. But it's really a little bit of a fool's errand to do that with writing and directing, because those are such specific submissions. So once those come out, it really shows where I think a network is going, or like you said, if somebody goes rogue and just submits themselves anyway. I don't know. I feel good about it just being like one day after submissions, but like I said, we have a month, and I know these are going to change, you know, weekly, and things will happen, and there will be ads and Q&As and articles and everything else in between now and then. Something that was, I get, maybe not interesting, but maybe worth talking about is Roseanne, which obviously is now canceled, or maybe soon to be uncanceled in a different version. And ABC said that they would not mount an Emmy campaign for it, but clearly they did their submissions for the show and writing and directing and stuff before the big blow up, and so all of those appear on there. Do you think that is just going to be a big fat zero?
I think I have it in for what I have it for multi-camera editing, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I've got. But yeah, they didn't just they had an Emmy campaign going, and then they suspended it, and they also took down all the billboards that were up.
Yes.
And apparently it cost them $250,000.
That sounds about right.
All the cancellations for, then they had to book new things for their various FYC events and all that kind of stuff.
Cool. Maybe they can do that for Blackish and Fresh Off the Boat instead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. That makes sense. Especially the split categories now that will give comedy its own set of nominees instead of having to share it. So I think it could sneak in there in a way that's branch to branch, and people that work in that section of the industry can still support the people that worked on the show. But yeah, anything above that, I can't imagine showing up.
Yeah, it's tricky with like any controversy. Like, remember when Jeremy Piven lied about being, having a sushi food poisoning or something, and then he had won 3 times and never nominated again because it was unforgivable. So,
oh, to be in that era where something like that could be unforgivable forever. My goodness, those are the salad days. What about things that kind of earned a bit of groundswell support this year, like One Day at a Time? I feel like that was a show that, again, the internet and critics really wanted to kind of happen for its first season. It didn't. And then there had to be a real push for it to get another season. Where do you think that it has any chance of anything?
I mean, sure, but I'm not predicting it for anything except what it got last year, which is, again, that multi-camera editing category.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Netflix, they did a big push for it last year where, yeah, they sent out the whole season. It got one of their larger, DVD boxes. And still, like, this is a show that people weren't sure was going to be renewed.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe it has, like, its small pocket of passionate fans, but I don't really see much more than that.
Yeah, I'm sort of on that as well.
I'm guessing you have Rita Moreno in?
I actually do have her in.
Okay.
I did last year too, though.
Yes.
She was in like the last place, but I didn't want to miss that boat in case she was, because I don't know. She's Rita Moreno. It's just so weird that she did not get in to me.
Yeah, but like, when was the last time that she was nominated for kind of anything?
I don't care. Cicely Tyson was able to get in after.
Let's see. So she won her Oscar in 1962.
Yeah.
She was last nominated for an Emmy in 1983.
Yep. It was a while.
Yeah.
It's a perfect classic nomination for that category. I don't know.
It is, yeah.
It made sense, and she's got. I don't know. I'm not gonna overstate it. Otherwise, I'll be trying to convince myself to put it in.
Okay.
But I'm keeping it and most of the contenders in like my next up other contenders list, because I think it could maybe. I don't know. My gosh.
Yeah, I'm just not considering it.
That's fair. That's fair. Do you want to dip into limited series for a bit?
Of course.
All right then. Let's go right to the actual top categories before we work our way into writing and directing. I don't know. Maybe even do that in a different podcast. What are you predicting to get in limited series?
Well, it's tricky because we've got American Crime Story and we've got Godless, which is getting a huge push from Netflix.
Yes, it is.
And then other than that, I kind of feel like, this category is full of contenders that nobody really cares about. I think that Black Mirror would easily triumph if it were submitted properly as a limited series.
Yep.
But yeah, we've just got so many shows this year that averaged a zero point 0.0 Nielsen rating, which is hard to do. But Top of the Lake, Patrick Melrose, Little Women, Howard's End, Mosaic, The Girlfriend Experience. These are all shows that nobody saw. If you want to move up into the zero point 0.1 rating range, then we also have Genius, The Long Road Home, Twin Peaks. And then you also have to consider stuff like The Looming Tower, which has been on Hulu for months, but I don't think anybody's seen it. And none of these shows have that great reviews anyway. Our only contenders that have above 80 on Metacritic are Alias Grace and Howard's End. So it's just a really poor field, I would say. So I've got American Crime Story, I've got Godless, I have The Sinner, even though it's not really a prestige show. I think that a lot of people saw it, and it was sent out on an individual DVD. Twin Peaks, I caved to just because I feel like some people care about it, so that's better than possibly nobody. And then in fifth for limited series, I have The Alienist, which again got decent ratings and has high production values, and I feel like is a pretty. It's very watchable just because it's another serial killer show.
I have basically similar to yours. I have Looming Tower, American Crime Story, Twin Peaks, Godless, but I also have Howard's End making it in. I know The Sinner is doing really well, making the rounds. Probably more than most of these are. So I feel like it would make more sense to put that in than Howard's End. But yeah, it is kind of bleak. This is a really bleak category. So much so that American Vandal could get in.
Yes, hopefully it does.
And I love that. Wasn't a dig. I loved it. It's fantastic. But it would be so funny for something like that to get in, and like Little Women to not.
Yeah, the thing about American Vandal is just that Netflix isn't pushing it as much. Like, it's not one of the ones that they sent out the full season for on DVD. And yeah,
I can see that. Alias Grace, gosh. I'm kind of sleeping on that too. I wonder. Netflix has a lot of things here.
Yes.
They have 7 Seconds, they have Collateral, they have Vandal, they have Alias Grace, they have Godless. They have a lot. Yeah.
I'll say about The Sinner that, like, even though I have it third, which, should make it pretty safe, like, this is a show that got 0 nominations from any guild. And like even the Critics' Choice Awards, they nominated Jessica Biel and Bill Pullman, and they still snubbed it in limited series.
Yeah, that's why I'm a little hesitant on it, and that's because Jessica Biel's really gotten the most attention and she's doing the most press for it, so it just kind of made sense that it would be her, maybe, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not too high on it, but I think almost anything that happens in this category won't be that surprising because it's not that strong. There aren't a lot of standouts.
And like TV movie is just as dreadful. Where
oh my God.
I'd say Fahrenheit 451 is a lock for a nomination, and that should not be the case ever. But this is a category that nominated Grace and Monaco, and they nominated the Dolly Parton movie last year. And just like in these categories, sometimes visibility or even awareness is all you need with like Bonnie and Clyde or The Bible or all those killing movies that got in.
Yeah. Well, this was when they split this between limited series and TV movie. This is what happens.
Yeah.
It becomes kind of bleak. I think I have I have the Black Mirror episode, The Tale, Fahrenheit, Paterno, and Flint.
Okay. Yeah, I've got The Child in Time for my last slot. I had Electric Dreams, but then they submitted multiple episodes for TV movie, and that confused me. So.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
The Child in Time is another one of those that's, I'd say, really lacking, but at least they sent out a DVD.
Yeah.
And for some reason, the American reviews have been a lot stronger than the British reviews that I agree with.
Okay. Yeah, that's... Oh, my God. I look at this and I'm like, okay, what else is there? There's 3 other Lifetime movies, Cocaine Godmother and Story of a Girl and the Elizabeth Smart movie, and I'm like, just make it stop.
Yeah. I would warn you not to go with Flint, because it did win the Writers Guild Award, but that's a panel vote, and last year they awarded Confirmation, and previously they awarded, Saints and Strangers, and...
I could easily replace Flint with Child in Time.
Yeah.
That would...
Have you seen The Child in Time, though?
No, I have not.
Yeah, okay.
Why?
It's just really bad, I thought.
It's Benedict Cumberbatch, right?
Yes.
Well, of course it's bad then.
There's time travel for some reason.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, it's right there in the title, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I will not find that necessary viewing. No, I'm good there.
Did you watch Patrick Melrose?
No, I did not. Okay. I might between now and then, but I just... Cumberbatch is the antithesis of like anything that I like.
Okay.
So it makes it... It's a bias that I live with.
Like, I'm somebody who thinks that he's actually been under-awarded, but I found Patrick Melrose unbearable. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind as I pop that in. So what are your TV movie like final predictions? Did you say it and I just totally blanked?
I've got Black Mirror, The Tale, Paterno, Fahrenheit 451, and The Child in Time.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. So we were like 4 for 5 there.
It's hard not to be, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I would
have loved to have seen HBO submit Tour de Pharmacy, their Andy Samberg summer movie. But...
Wasn't that 40 minutes long?
Yeah.
Can't that go into like short form?
Oh, I'm not sure. They submitted it for some like various categories. Like I saw it in movie editing, for example, but I don't know.
Yeah, I thought that it has like a 60-minute rule the way that the Oscars do.
Okay.
I might be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, that would be really great because it was so good.
It was fun.
Yeah, it is fun. It sort of exists in a place that there's no home for it at something like the Emmys. Almost.
Yeah, which is tricky for like American Vandal over in limited series.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least they ended up only submitting one for writing, and they do have that Writers Guild nomination in a popular vote category under their belt. So I'm hopeful there.
That's a good point. Speaking of, let's jump over to that and see what we're looking at for writing and directing for limited series, movie, or dramatic special. I can't believe it's still called that.
I don't know what.
But when was the last dramatic special? I don't really. That's just lower the title. It's too many letters anyway, especially for print. Okay, so writing for a limited series. I've got. This is the 5 nominees, right? Shit.
6.
Oh, it is 6? That's right. Okay, good. I have 6. I've got the American Crime Story House by the Lake episode, Godless, Looming Tower, 9/11, The Sinner, The Tale, and Twin Peaks: The Return.
Okay, so I've got radically different predictions then. First of all, I've got Black Mirror.
Yeah, I'm stupid for not having that in there.
And then I have The Tale. Then I have both Versace episodes
Ah,
and American Vandal and Howard's End. The Looming Tower, I just can't tell if it'll be, something that gets 10 nominations or just gets Jeff Daniels, which is what I'm predicting right now. It's
okay.
Yeah, it's interesting with Versace how, like, internally they seem to really like the Cody Fern episode and his arc.
Hmm.
Like, instead of submitting the premiere, the writer Tom Rob Smith, he submitted that episode, and then their lead director, instead of submitting the finale, he also submitted that Cody Fern centric House by the Lake.
Well, I think they were really paying attention to and following the recaps and the write-ups of the season, and that was the episode that got the most attention and the most love. So I think it was just a really smart idea.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate, like in supporting actor, how they're still pushing Ricky Martin over Cody Fern.
Yeah, yeah. It's yeah. That's all I can say about that. That would be a really great nomination, though. Oh my god.
Yeah, I think it'll happen. Just because I think that if people actually watch it, then how could they not? But we'll see.
Yeah, but we've been burned by that type of thinking before, though.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to find a way to replace something with Black Mirror. But I feel much stronger about the Looming Tower, obvious than you do. I think it will do.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
I think it will do very, very well for them. It's their main push in this category. They, broke all barriers last year, so their visibility is pretty enormous now. But on the other side, I have no issue with seeing it as just a Jeff Daniels thing too. That could absolutely happen. But I feel pretty good about it.
Okay, now what about limited movie or dramatic special directing? What do you have for that?
It's very similar. I have Versace, but I have The Man Who Would Be Vogue,
Yeah.
Godless, Looming Tower 9/11, and Looming Tower Now It Begins,
Ooh.
The Tale, and Twin Peaks.
Okay. So you don't have any Black Mirror? Is that what I'm missing?
That is correct.
Okay. I've got both Black Mirror, the one that they're pushing, and then
Yeah.
also Jodie Foster.
Ah, okay. I think that's fine. That's fair.
Yeah. And then just on the outside, I've got Steven Soderbergh for Mosaic.
I'm looking at it right now because it's in my other contenders list, and I'm like, oh, it makes such sense.
I mean, the directors' branches, especially like with all the names on the ballot, they really love their big names. And Steven Soderbergh got in twice for The Nick.
Yeah.
When they could have nominated the series finale of Mad Men and just didn't. And
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where sometimes, name recognition completely supersedes anything else, and that was certainly a case there, and I think it could be here. Although, I mean, the response generally to the Nick was better than Mosaic.
For sure, yeah.
So, actually, I think I made it through 2 episodes.
Okay.
It was. I'd like to maybe follow through with it. I like Sharon Stone. I like Garrett Hedlund. I just was. I don't know. It didn't.
Well, you saw all of Sharon Stone.
Wow, really?
Yeah, because she dies, that's the premise, and then she disappears.
No.
So that's...
I don't even think I got to that.
Oh, okay. That's in the middle of number 2.
Yeah, well, there you go. I didn't even finish, though. Oh, boy. Then I've seen everything I want to see. Yeah, I'm not too high on that. So what do you have?
So I've got Ryan Murphy, David Lynch, the 2 Black Mirrors, Godless, and The Tale.
That sounds good. So I have 2 Looming Tower. You have 2 Black Mirror.
Yep.
That makes sense. They did really well before. That makes sense.
Yeah, Black Mirror actually, like, they only got the three nominations last year, like I said, when they were not really campaigning it. But since then, they've won, so many Guild Awards. They've expanded at BAFTA, even though they tend to, uh, go the other way when something gets too popular. So I have it expanding to 15 nominations, picking up an additional 12 from last year.
Holy cow! Oh my gosh.
But I did also overpredict it last year. So.
Okay. No, but that's kind of how you do it, where you look at something that has a bit of a breakthrough, and you're either, as a predictor, you're either kind of ahead of it, or I don't know, or you're not. And the Television Academy might be now totally in line with Black Mirror, and that's going to make this season really, really big for it.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where you've seen it at some point, which will really help it against the tail, I think, when it comes to deciding the winner of that category. Mm-hmm. Just like when Sherlock finally won for, the episode that kind of nobody cared about from the series, but everybody had seen it at some point, so they had some familiarity or respect for it compared to whatever TV movie happened to air in the last week of May.
Yes, exactly. Let's see. Gosh, so we kind of have some similar things there, but any chance for something like Jesus Christ Superstar, or is that just too far outside?
I'm not going to predict one of those for like one of these categories or acting until it happens.
Yeah.
I would watch out for Top of the Lake again, just off of name recognition.
Yeah, I have that in the acting categories for sure. But yeah, so talk about a very underwhelming second season in every regard. Mm-hmm. Almost just unnecessary. But it feels like something that could be very easily name-checked, too.
Yeah, like it was at the Globes for the top category.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, gosh. We could go into acting, but this would become a 3-hour podcast if we do.
Okay, bye.
I know. It's like, okay, bye, everybody. And I kind of would rather break it apart, especially for the Emmys, because there are just so many categories, and I want to give things enough time to to really talk about. And there's a whole month before nominations, so I think this is probably a good place to stop, and then we can continue at a later date. I'd love to have you return if you'd be up for that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, you're somebody I think that has just such a great bead on the Academy, on voters, and I don't know, in a way that is not very biased, which I think is probably the most important characteristic you can have as a predictor, is to try and remove as much bias as possible. And especially because I think the acting categories are going to be a lot of fun to talk about. The main acting categories, like we kind of hinted on earlier, there's a lot of movement between submissions last year and this year, and that could really change things quite a bit for a lot of performances.
So you don't want to talk about the 19 people who entered for short form actor?
Oh my god. No, unless it's Megan Brown. No, I haven't even looked at those yet. So I would need to bone up before even venturing into there. but we could totally do that on the
Yeah,
next
no,
one.
no, I'm good. I saw James Corden and I didn't recognize anybody else.
Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah, that sounds like a lock for him then. Great.
His show is called James Corden's Next James Corden.
Oh my God! Please stop.
I guess he's probably playing himself. So.
He always. He did in Ocean's 8 too. It's like, oh, it's James Corden playing James Corden. That's cool. Thanks. Yeah, no, I'm good. All right, cool. I can get this out for my lovely listeners and hopefully followers and listeners and fans of you as well. Riley, where can people find you, your writing and your musings and predictions?
Well, yeah, I'm on Gold Derby, and if you want to follow me on any social media, I'm Riley Chow across all platforms because apparently it's a unique name.
That's good. You're lucky.
No underscores or anything.
Yes, no underscores like me. And yes, you can find me at Twitter at awards_watch, but all other platforms are just awards watch because that's how it goes. Riley, thank you so much. This was so awesome. I'm so glad that we finally got to do this.
Yeah, I've been on your site for years, and I love what you do.
Thanks. That's awesome. I love mutual appreciation. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. It is June 12th. Emmy nominations are July 12th, so we will have future podcasts talking about the acting categories, hopefully within the coming days or weeks. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Goodbye.